Let's talk about the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, the second F1 race of the year. There is so much to talk about. The story of this race, in my opinion, really has three parts. You got qualifying, you got the early race, and then you have, from about lap 36 on, the late stages of the race. Let's start with qualifying. First of all, Lewis Hamilton could not make it out of Q1. He simply did not have the base. He actually qualified 16th, which is horrible. He did start the race in P15 because of a crash to Mick Schumacher. But it's just really crazy how much things have changed from last year to now. 4 months ago at the end of last year, Lewis Hamilton was on pole at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And Saturday was his worst qualifying in years. And it really is a testament to show how much Mercedes really is struggling with their car and with their pace. Now, in Q2, Mick Schumacher crashed. He was all right, but his car got destroyed. He did not race at all on Sunday. Kind of a big blow to Haas because, they've been building momentum and they got some points again this weekend, and they only had one of their cars running because their second driver and their second car was just annihilated by the crash. I kind of wonder, I don't know if this is an off-color joke or not, but I wonder, did Mick Schumacher get hit harder by the wall or Chris Rock get hit harder by Will Smith? Anyone see that video, Will Smith? Oh my goodness. Anyway, also there's one kind of feel-good story from qualifying. Sergio Perez was amazing during qualifying. And let me be clear, I'm glad Mick Schumacher is okay. I really want to see Haas keep going and hopefully have two competitive cars in the coming races. Now, Sergio Perez got his first ever pole position. This was his 215th race in Formula One, and it's been a long time coming. And it's kind of a nice reminder. Last year we learned, oh my gosh, this is what Sergio Perez can look like in a really good top car in F1. And he's a guy we always thought that about. We always kind of wondered, Sergio Perez has been on a bad team for a long time. What would happen if you put a guy with clearly the talent he has in a top car? We learned last year, and then finally, on Saturday, he got his first ever pole in F1. Now, the race itself, in the early part of the race on Sunday, the most fun thing was the two Alpine drivers going head-to-head, Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso. They were battling back and forth for sixth place, following each other really closely. It was Esteban Ocon gave some kind of quote talking about how it felt like go-karts, right? Because they're so much more able to follow each other this year than they have been in previous years. And Alpine let them race, which I love. It hurt the team a little bit. It did slow them down. It allowed Valtteri Bottas with the Alfa Romeo to kind of challenge them a little bit. But on the flip side, they dominated the screen and put on a show for their advertisers. So, look, was it a stunt? Maybe. I don't really know. It certainly was great to see them on TV for like half of the race. But it was also a really fun battle. And that's what I live for in F1, is watching these guys race wheel to wheel and battling back and forth for positioning. And I do want to add, I could see it being hard to be teammates with Fernando Alonso. He's always driven like a bit of a bully where, and it was interesting. We saw Esteban Ocon kind of challenge Fernando Alonso and make a late move in front of him. And then later, Fernando Alonso kind of squeezed Esteban Ocon. And it'll be interesting to see how their relationship progresses throughout the year. Like, it's fine to be aggressive on the track. I would be curious to know if that aggression from Fernando Alonso will carry off the track as well. And even if their relationship is good now, and I think Esteban Ocon talks openly about how like he's learned a lot from Fernando Alonso, their teammates, and I think he looks up to him and respects him. But how long will that carry on? Like, by the end of the year, is their relationship going to be in a different place where it goes from competitive teammates that want to beat each other to could animosity grow at any point this year and kind of bubble up? I don't know, but I'm really interested to see and kind of follow along how that relationship plays out as the year goes on. Now, look, honestly, this was a great moment for Alpine. Again, dominating the screen. It was really fun to watch. They were 6th and 7th, which meant that they were behind only the big three teams, Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes. And like I said, it was a fun show. I loved the battle. Now, another storyline from early on in this race was that Mercedes' pace is just not at all where it needs to be. There was a moment where Kevin Magnussen in a Haas passed Lewis Hamilton for P6 in this race, and it was just a great example of how different things are this year compared to last year. And watching a Haas pass a Mercedes car was mind-boggling. I'm like, I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime. And it wasn't like the Mercedes was having a power issue or it had a flat spot or anything like, no. Kevin Magnussen's car was just faster than Lewis Hamilton's in that moment, and I did not see that coming at all. I thought Haas would be better this year, maybe a little bit, but I did not see, wow. Mercedes is way slower than they have been in previous years, and Haas is faster than they've been in a long, long time. Now, the final big storyline from early on in this race has to do with Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez got an incredibly unlucky break. I felt really bad for the guy. Checo was in P1. Charles Leclerc was behind him. And Ferrari, to their credit, pulled a really great bluff where they showed they were about to box. Their team went out to change the tires for Charles Leclerc. And the reality is Ferrari gave Charles Leclerc orders to do the opposite of whatever Sergio Perez did. So Sergio Perez goes into box to block the undercut. Charles Leclerc stays out. Sergio Perez does do a pit stop, puts on new tires. And unfortunately, on the very next lap, almost immediately actually, Nicholas Latifi crashed his Williams. And this really, really screwed Sergio Perez because the margins are razor thin in Formula One. And Checo took a normal length pit stop. And then immediately everyone else behind him was handed a cheaper pit stop under caution. And so, with a safety car. So this took Checo from P1 all the way back to putting him in P4. And it was just painfully unlucky timing. I would have liked to see how the race would have played out if he'd found a way to stay in P1 and not been screwed over by that timing. But that's F1. That happens sometimes, and there's nothing you can do about it. But it's a reminder that, look, that narrow moment, like that 10-second advantage you get from taking a pit stop under a safety car can mean the difference between first place and fourth place in Formula One. And that's so very much why I love this sport. Now, lap 36, the race took a turn one more time from the early race and some of the fun drama to becoming a chaotic mess for a little bit and then turning into a whole different race. So there was a cascade of problems and retirements. On lap 36, Fernando Alonso's Alpine was overheating. He was in 7th at the time, so he had to retire from the race. That's a big deal. Lap 37, Daniel Ricciardo just suddenly lost power and stalled out right in front of the pit entry. It actually blocked Lewis Hamilton from being able to go take a pit stop, which he was in P6 at the time, and he had to wait a while to get a tire change, and that pushed him back down the grid a little bit more. And then at lap 38, Valtteri Bottas had to retire. So after this weird kind of frenzy of moments and retirements, what was left was this incredible battle during the final 8 to 10 laps of the race between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, the Red Bull versus the Ferrari. And we got 8 laps of back and forth, wheel-to-wheel driving. It was an incredible battle. Max made an early move that didn't stick. He made his move early in the lap, and he passed Charles Leclerc. Then Charles Leclerc passed him right back. And then eventually on lap 47 out of 50, Max learned from the past, was more patient, waited till later in the lap, and at the very right moment, he decided to finally pass Charles Leclerc for first place. And so Max held on. He won the race. And I got to say that so far between race 1 and 2, we've had this incredible battle with Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. And, Leclerc won race 1, Max won number 2. And I hope it stays neck and neck all year long. The battle between the Red Bull, the top driver at Red Bull and the top driver at Ferrari is so fun. And the potential for what this battle could become as the year goes on, if they stay neck and neck all year long, I mean, this could be another wild ending in Formula One, similar to what we had last year with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Maybe not as controversial, hopefully, as we had last year, but truly, feels like we got a neck and neck battle that is very even right now. And I'm excited to see where it goes. And I want to give a shout out to the new F1 regulations. Changes were made that allow cars to have an easier time following each other and fighting back and staying behind each other for these long, extended battles. And it's some of the most enjoyable racing we've had in the entire time I've watched F1. these long back and forth fights, wheel to wheel between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, or Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso. And I just am really, really happy where Formula One is right now. The regulations are great. The battles are great. I feel like it's a very healthy time to be a fan of the sport. And I think you could argue that it's maybe the best time in quite a while to be a Formula One fan. And I am very, very happy with what's going on. Now, here are the final results from Saudi Arabia. In first place, you got Max Verstappen. In second, you got Charles Leclerc. He also got the fastest lap, so he got 19 points on the day. Third was Carlos Sainz. That is 2 podiums for Ferrari in back-to-back races. Fourth, you got Sergio Perez for Red Bull. P5 was George Russell for Mercedes. P6, Esteban Ocon for Ocon. I feel like I say that horribly. I apologize. I know it's probably wrong for Alpine. P7, Lando Norris for McLaren. If you're mad at me about Esteban Ocon pronunciation, you're in the wrong place. I'm just going to say that all year. Although feel free to correct me, and I'll try my best, I guess. P7, we got Lando Norris for McLaren. P8, Pierre Gasly. P9, Kevin Magnussen for Haas. And then all the way back at P10, getting only 1 point on the day, you had Lewis Hamilton. A weird, humbling start to the year so far for Lewis Hamilton. He's just happy to be around and hanging around the top at all in Formula One. Here are the constructors' standings right now. You got Ferrari in first place with 78 points. Behind them, Mercedes in second with 38 points. Red Bull's in third right now with 37 points. The top 2 teams right now in Formula One are Red Bull and Ferrari. Red Bull had problems finishing the race during the first race of the year in Bahrain, but I don't know, man. I see a world where something's going to happen at Ferrari along this incredibly long season where it's going to be very quick that at some point they're going to be closer and more neck and neck. But the 2 top teams right now in Formula One are very clearly Ferrari and Red Bull. Then you got Alpine in fourth place with 16 points. Haas is in fifth place with 12 points. Alfa Romeo in fifth. Alfa Romeo is in sixth place with 9 points, and then AlphaTauri is in seventh with 8 points, and then McLaren has points on the board. They got 6 points. They are in eighth. Aston Martin and Williams have no points on the year so far. And for Williams, Nicholas Latifi had a horrible, horrible weekend. A crash in qualifying, then a crash again on Sunday during the race. And I'm really curious if Williams can do anything to be relevant at all the entire year. I have no interest in them. Alex Albon seems like not a great driver. Latifi has no pace and keeps crashing. I'm like, I think right now the far and away least interesting team in Formula One right now is Williams. Now, we got to talk about Otmar Szafnauer. He left Aston Martin. He was their team principal last year. And he left with something happened behind the scenes. We don't really know. Was he fired? Did he leave? It sounded like kind of a mutual disagreement. He walked away and became the team principal at Alpine. And so far, Otmar Szafnauer has won the breakup with Aston Martin to this point. 2 races in, Aston Martin has no points, and they look lost. Now, they should get Sebastian Vettel, their top driver, back for Australia. But Alpine, in contrast, is fourth in F1 behind only the big 3 teams, Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes. And I just want to say good for Otmar Szafnauer. Like, awesome for him. Clearly, there was some kind of disagreement behind the scenes with Aston Martin. He left, and he seems to be doing much better on his new team. And I'm really enjoying watching Alpine, what they're doing with Ocon and Fernando Alonso. And I think this battle, kind of this moment right now for fourth between, can McLaren make a push? I think so. They're getting better. It was unfortunate Daniel Ricciardo had to retire early during lap 37. But you got McLaren, Haas, and Alpine all battling for fourth right now in Formula One. I guess AlphaTauri's in the mix somewhere too. And then Alfa Romeo's strong too. Like, the midfield right now is the most interesting it's been in quite a while because you have so many players that feel capable of getting fourth in Formula One. And so shout out to the midfield. It's been really fun. And the regulations, the battle at the top between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen, the midfield, everything right now, I am loving it in Formula One. And we are, it is shaping up to be maybe just another, maybe, I don't want to make this grandiose statement, but I'm like really excited about where the year is going. And I feel like the sense of, it's already been 2 races. It's been incredible so far. a lot of that is thanks to the regulations and the changes made there. It's interesting that Mercedes is down, and I bet some fans are celebrating that Mercedes is not the dominant force they once were. I'm actually kind of like, I'd like to see Mercedes get even better and kind of throw their hat in the ring as well. I can't say enough how excited I am for the rest of the year in Formula One. It's shaping up to be an incredible season, and 2 races in, oh man, I am so happy.